Let's bring in Kevin Smith from Trump's business delegation to Asia. Kevin is the CEO of Solar Reserve. Welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So let's start with your main takeaways from the trip to China. What stood out to you most about this experience?
Well, I mean, we've been active in China for about 5 or 6 years, so there's been lots of progress on trade, certainly in the renewable energy industry. And so that continues. When you look at China's investment, looking at the next 3 to 4 years, they're looking at $350 billion. Solar Reserve is a unique company in that we have an energy storage technology utilizing molten salt. And frankly, the Chinese don't have anything like it. So there's a good opportunity for us to pursue those activities in China. We've got a number of partners that we're working with in China in order to implement projects utilizing our U.S. developed technology.
And it's interesting, storage does seem to be one of the problems that they have in the solar industry. You're able to create all this power and they're not able to store it. So in terms of how you see the future of your cooperation with China, where do you think it goes from here?
Well, there's a few things. One is, like I said, China is looking to implement a number of large-scale projects. I mean, they're looking at a 6-gigawatt program, which is potentially upwards to $10 to $15 billion in investment in technologies like ours, projects that have technology like ours, which is energy storage. So solar energy with fully integrated energy storage is what we offer. In addition, we're looking at a number of projects around the world, South Africa, Australia, Chile, all markets that the Chinese are interested potentially in investment or potentially providing construction services. So our sector of the market is called solar thermal with molten salt energy storage, and the Chinese are taking an active role on the construction side of those projects. So we're talking with them about potentially building projects for us in some of those markets, in addition to what's happening in the China market itself.
Now let's also look at some of the challenges. We know that the U.S. is in the process of levying anti-dumping duties on Chinese solar products. How do you think that's going to impact your business if that does actually go through?
Well, it won't, we're not a panel supplier, we're not a panel manufacturer, so it really won't directly affect Solar Reserve. It will affect, however, it will affect the U.S. market. And I think the vast majority of the solar energy players here and industry players here are really against the tariffs. The solar energy industry here employs upwards to 300,000 people. Most of them are in facilitation, in construction, in maintenance, in services surrounding solar facilities, and the inexpensive Chinese panels has really helped facilitate that side of the business. There's not a whole lot of manufacturing on panel technology that's really done in the U.S. anymore. That train has kind of left the station, and the Chinese pretty much have knocked that down. And other parts of Asia, I mean, there's manufacturing in Malaysia and the Philippines and some other markets. So I think that would be negative for U.S. jobs if they implemented those tariffs. And I think the vast majority of the industry players, including the Solar Energy Industry Association, which is the main solar body, is really against implementing those tariffs in the U.S.
And we can certainly see that those who install the panels will be harder hit, obviously, than those who produce it. So how can some of the installers, how can they get their voices heard in this?
Well, they are making their voices heard. The main solar energy industry, as I mentioned, the SEIA, has been very vocal in their opposition to putting those tariffs in place. It'll affect homeowners, it'll affect businesses, it'll affect commercial players that want to put solar on their roofs. So it would be, they're talking about tens of thousands of lost jobs if that tariff is implemented.
So what do you see overall as the biggest challenges for the solar industry moving forward?
Well, cost historically has been the issue, but in reality now with plummeting prices for panel technology and technology like ourselves, the solar energy now is very cost competitive, and in fact, in some areas of the U.S. and a lot of places internationally, it's the cheapest form of energy supply, of electricity supply. The issue really now is going to be centering around storage. That's kind of our gig, and a big part of our business is looking at taking our energy storage and seeing how we can implement that in various projects. I mean, the difficulty with solar panels and wind is it generates electricity only when the sun shines or the wind blows, and peak power pricing and peak demand periods for the U.S. are moving into the evening periods, kind of that 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., 9 p.m. at night when everybody's
Right.
coming home and firing up their computers and dinner and everything else. So peak prices are moving later into the afternoon and evening hours, and that's where panel technology starts to fade. So that energy storage, whether it's something like us and molten salt batteries, or molten salt, or battery technology, those are going to be tremendous opportunities going forward for manufacturers and suppliers.
I'm sure as with winter coming, a lot of people will be looking at ways to cut costs. Maybe solar is the way. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Kevin Smith, CEO of Solar Reserve.